So one of the really important concepts in Flowgear is the idea that you need sample data to be able to progress to the next step. Because when you have sample data, if the next step requires some kind of schema or specimen data to work with, then it's able to obtain it. And so we had a bit of a manual process where you'd repeatedly need to run a step, load data from the activity logs, open that up on screen, and then click a button to transfer that into the design view so that you could proceed with the next step. So we've made some changes that increase the sort of fluidity of how that sample data is acquired. I'll give you some examples of that. So I'm going to go and add a SQL query. We'll just do the usual kind of demo over here, and I want to pull some contact information out of that table. So here's contacts, and let's just run this. Now let's say that I wanted to extract one particular piece of information. So maybe I'm working with key value pairs, and I want to be able to do a set key value, and I need to dynamically obtain the value. Maybe I need the ID of the first contact for argument's sake. So what I would typically have had to do is go into the result property over here, and then we've got this button, copy value to node, and what that would do is take the underlying value, be it an XML or JSON document, take that data and manually place it onto the design view. And we just kind of automated that process, which means it's much more fluid for you to progress through the design of a workflow. So what I could do now is just wire up into the result XML property and click the formula icon, and then Flowgear will actually go and figure out that I've recently run this stage and generate a schema for me that's based on a recent activity log, and I can just select that field. And having discovered that, what we don't want to do is have to make calls to retrieve the activity logs every time you want to jump in and see the schema. So we're actually placing that data there. So we've automated that process. I'll take it a little bit further. Let's say that we were building an integration into Salesforce. So I'll just go and select a Salesforce sample for this. We'll just do a quick contact sample, and I'll show you this because one of the other key areas that you need to be able to access that schema information would be in quick map. So if I go and add a quick map stage, the same kind of principle would apply over here. If this process was cleared out, so I've just run the workflow up to the stage, but my result property is currently empty. Well, now what will happen is I can wire into the source property over here, wire into the result property over here, or from the result property rather, and then by clicking into this, you see there was a bit of a pause there, and that's because it was loading the activity logs, and it's been able to obtain this schema now on an automated basis because I had that data inside an activity log for the preceding step. So what's actually going to happen is it's going to look for some data over here. It'll look first for a document there. Second, it will look for a schema there. Third, if there's a connected property, it'll look for a document or a schema there. And fourth, it will look for an activity log that's available here or an activity log that's available here. So I've shown you two areas that we're doing this. One is those data mapping expressions. The second would be a component like QuickMap that needs those schemas. And then the last one would be some special nodes where you need to be able to build out paths. And a good example of this would be an iterator like the for each node. So if I go and add onto for each over here, now I've got the result data is going to get plugged into source document, and let's say that I hadn't manually put some sample data in over here, so I'm just going to wipe that out again manually. Now when I focus the path property, this is going to be either an XML or a JSON path depending on the type of document that I've plugged in. Again, previously you would have had to have manually provided some data either here or here, but now just focusing that path property, you'll see it's presented this tree for me, so I can say iterate on table, and at the same time it populated that sample data. So this just makes it a lot easier and kind of more fluid as you go through a workflow. Typically as you're building a process out, you'll add on a stage, you'll run it up to that point and then progress to the next stage. So in this case, as long as you've run the preceding step at least once, it's in scope for the activity logs, you'll be able to infer schemas and obtain sample data for you.